Hello and welcome back to the Villa View. Don't adjust your sets, don't turn off just yet, I'm not doing this alone. Dan is unfortunately ill and this is the only window of time I've got to record this preview. So I thought I'd ask on a favour from an old friend. I spoke to Mr. Matt Lynch, ex-Villa View. We always said that when he left he'd always be welcome back, and I said, do you mind helping me out on a preview? So here he is. Familiar face returns. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Have you got the bug to be back into video production yet?
I have. I've posted a few Instagrams recently of
I know, I've seen
them. And it's sort of, I miss it. I do miss it, like, greatly. So it's good to be back tonight.
Yeah, so a little bit of a one-off. Dan's ill, as we mentioned earlier. Games on TV tomorrow, Sheffield United away. How do you see it going?
A really tough game. Chris Wilder's side are well set up, as we saw just a few weeks ago, actually, 23rd December. They're a well-drilled side, and they're going to be a real problem, especially playing them at home where they're on their own turf and they're going to look to dictate play. And that's what they did at Villa Park, to be honest. As soon as we scored two, they then dictated play, and it was a different game. So I think we're going to see it again, where they're going to try and dictate play, and we've got to try and combat their attacking force that's physical, really. I think that's the main thing we've got to do for it.
Yeah, I think it probably suits a counter-attacking style for Villa. The home team are naturally going to push on to us, and we're there to try and counter that. Going back to that game in December, do you think that us being 2-0 up and throwing away that 2-0 lead affects this game? Is there a mental aspect there for the players to think about, that they've thrown away a lead before and that sort of thing could happen again?
I don't think there's a mental aspect to it, because our actual turning point, I think, at this moment in time in our season was the way that we collapsed in that game. I know we didn't lose it, but we did collapse still, essentially. And I think that was the turning point in terms of we scored two and then we sat back. Since that moment, Steve Bruce had to change his tactics a bit and tweak it. And since then, we've looked good going forward. And we've always looked to score more, even if we scored two. We saw it against Barnsley. We scored the two, we got the third. And we didn't sit back at any point, I don't think, to be honest, apart from when Barnsley applied a bit of pressure. And I think we're going to see that again. But we need to go out there and start quickly, but don't concede, essentially, like we did last time, where it was just a crazy 20 minutes or so. And without Miliadnak at centre-back, I think we're going to be okay.
Obviously, we've spoken a lot. Obviously, you left a long time ago, but we still chat most days. A lot about Steve Bruce, tactically, Villa, how we're doing this sort of thing. You mentioned the change in formation there after the Sheffield United game. How do you think, or what have you made of that 4-1-4-1 formation? How do you think that's changed the way we play?
I think I touched on it at fan cams. I said that what it does is allows the best qualities to come out of each individual player. So Conor Horan can have his free reign in midfield and create chances. You've got either Whelan or Jednak who will sit in that holding role. I'd imagine it might be Zabi tomorrow that does that role, and defensive midfield role. And that allows the expressive players to express and play their football. The likes of Snodgrass on the wing, and then on the opposite side of Doma, they can work their magic as usual. And then it just gives Jack Grealish that bit more freedom, I think, as well, in that central role moving further forward, because he's got players behind him that he knows that can do the dirty work that perhaps he doesn't want to do. And I think that really works in his favour. So I think it's been a beneficial change, because we're actually getting the best out of the players that we've got for once.
How much have you seen of Villa over the past couple of months?
And to be fair, I've tried to catch all the extended highlights, and I've watched as much as I can when it's been on TV or whatever else, I follow and all that sort of stuff as well. So I've tried to watch most games, and from what I can gather at this moment in time, we are more expressive at the moment. And I think that's down to the formation. I think I've watched the full 90 minutes of every game since Christmas or so. I think from that, what I've taken away is the huge impact that Steve Agnew's had on that side attackingly, allowing the likes of Clements to do the best he can with the defence, and Calderwood as well. What
have you made of Jack Grealish's season so far? Obviously, horrific injury in pre-season, didn't have a pre-season because of that. Sometimes that can stunt a player. But it seems that Grealish is more improved now than he ever has been.
I think last season he felt that he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, or the weight of the Aston Villa faithful. I think that having that injury has sort of changed him as a person. He's come back into much more of a man than a boy, you could say, that he was before that injury. I think it's had a major impact on the way he plays his football. He tries to stay on his feet now. He's a lot more direct with the way he does it. I think he just needs a goal or two, because at times he's had opportunities to pull the trigger, but he's opted to try and play another pass, which perhaps might not be the right decision. I think his general gameplay has been superb so far for us since he's come back into that team, and he looks the real player that we need. But I think the one thing that he's lacking is just that extra bit of decision making that could end up him scoring a few and being the difference between winning and losing the game potentially.
I know you're a big fan of Andre Green. The under-23s played today and he wasn't involved with the squad, so you'd expect that means that he'll be featured in some capacity on Tuesday. What will he bring to this Villa side?
I think he offers a bit more raw talent as such in comparison to Adoma. With Adoma, you know what you're going to get on the wing. He's a solid winger who will hug the white line and get chalk on his boots. With Green, he's the sort of player that will be able to cut inside and create chances from other positions. And I think as an expressive outforce, having those options is next to none. There's no many teams in our league that have got 2 wingers or 3 wingers like Adoma, like Snodgrass on the other side, and then Green and Grealish can play on the wingers as well. There's so many options that we've got out wide. We can chop and change it, and I think it will put more pressure on Albert Adoma as well to perform if you've got the likes of Andre Green on the bench, who, up to the point where he got injured, was one of our best players in the season.
Like Dan and Tom, you've been a big advocate of Scott Hogan over the past 12 months. How happy are you to see him playing well now? And 3 goals in 4 games.
He's just deserves. I think he's deserved this chance for some time, and he's needed that run in the team. And I think equally he's needed the set piece players that we've got, or the players that can put in a decent delivery as well. And I don't think he's had that before. Like I touched on previously, I think that Steve Agnew's worked on him a lot as he's talked about in the press. The fact that he's had somebody that can work with him on his movements, it's benefited him so much because he's a lot more freedom now. He's found the freedom in the box now. He's finding pockets of space and he's pulling defenders with him, which can also allow other players to get into the area. Like Hogan scored, which I think that stemmed from, if I'm right, Hogan having a shot and then it coming back to Hogan in a good position. That happens because of the space in the pockets that Hogan's opened up. So his general gameplay is brilliant. And the fact he's got a few goals under his belt as well is just doing so much for his confidence. And I'm so glad we've persevered with him as well.
So Steve Bruce had his press conference this morning. Basically, he said everyone's fit except Kodja. I think Samba's back training now, but not in contention to play. What team would you go for? Does Twanzebe, does he come straight into the team?
For me, he does. I think that he's got more legs and stamina. But then equally, that's harsh on Bjarnason.
Yeah.
I think that Bjarnason's been brilliant the last 4 games or so. So to me, I'm at this position now where I'm quite happy for either of them to be there. There's no complaints from me. I think that obviously it's going to be your standard back 4 that we've seen so many times now, the inverted left back that is Alan Hurton, centre backs of John Terry, James Chester, right back El Mohammadi, move forward, Twanzebe or Bjarnason. I'm not too fussed either. I'm quite happy with either, quite comfortable with either. Then pushing forward, you're going to have obviously Snodgrass, Adoma, Jack Grealish, Scott Hogan, and then you're going to have Conor Horan as well. And I think that works nicely for me. I think it's a really strong sort of lineup that does work for us really well.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned millions of times in the past about you don't change a winning team if you can, and it would be very harsh on Bjarnason, I think, to drop straight out. And you'd argue that maybe Twanzebe's got a few more training sessions to earn his place and show the management what he can do. But then, if you sign a lad from Man United on loan, you'd expect, we've heard Keith Warney say that anyone that comes in will be to strengthen the first team and all this sort of stuff. You'd think he comes in and plays, but harsh on Bjarnason, I think.
He can also slot in at centre half. He's very versatile, and I think that's the main benefit from him because you can put him on the bench, and that's one player who you can offer as a centre back, right back, and centre midfielder. If you can use him as those 3 versatile options, it gives you more opportunities on the bench to put more attacking threats on there, for example.
Talking of centre-backs, Tommy Elphick today has joined Reading on loan for the remainder of the season. I feel a little bit sorry for Tommy. I remember when he first came in, he was tweeting about something like, can't wait to get my hands on this trophy at the end of the season, when he posted a picture of winning the league with Bournemouth. And you sort of thought, oh yeah, this guy, he's going to be a real leader sort of thing. Then he comes in and he's bashing the crossbar with his head and all this sort of stuff. And you think, yeah, this guy's the real deal. Injuries and form, and he's not quite the player you think, and then comes in to replace John Terry, does very well, and then he's shipped off to Reading for the rest of the season. I don't know, I just feel a bit sorry for him. What do you think?
I feel sorry for him. I'm going to use a term that Max uses here, though, and he's a passion merchant. We all have a player that's got a bit of passion, and that's what he's got about him. He's got a heart on his sleeve attitude, and that's what I love about him. And I do feel sorry for him because he stepped in with absolutely no complaints and did a solid job for us. He's so unlucky that he's fallen into the situation where John Terry and James Chester are the 2 centre-backs ahead of him. You wouldn't think it'd be the case, but it is. And I think that having him as a 3rd centre-back is possibly an amazing option for us. But for the sake of Tommy Elphick's career, he doesn't want to be 3rd choice. He wants to be in the starting 11's Championship. It's a no-brainer for him to get first-team football. And it's just an unfortunate situation, I think, to be honest, that can't be helped, although I do feel for him.
Moving on to predictions now. How do you see the game going? What's your prediction?
I'm going to go 1-1. Simple factor is that this is a tough Sheffield United side. You know, they've beaten Preston at the weekend in the Cup. They found their form again. They're finding their feet a little bit. A draw against Sheffield Wednesday as well in the Steel Derby. You know, 1-1 I'd take quite happily. And then we move on from there and we push on for 3 points in the next few games.
Yeah, I'm going to go similar to you. I'm just going to go 1-0 for us. I think we'll sneak it. I think it'll be very cagey. But I think somebody like Jack Grealish is the sort of player that will, you know, he'll find that key pass in the 60th minute or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're in 1-0, sit back, take the 1-0 away, and 5 wins in a row. You'd be delighted with that. Massive thanks to Matt for digging us out of a hole a little bit this evening. Unfortunately, it was the only time we got. It's currently 8 o'clock on Monday night. Dan's ill as well, so everything was a little bit last minute, so apologies, the video is a little shorter than usual. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like and also subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 10k now, so every subscription helps. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Sheffield United game, and also, once the game's finished, if you come back to this video and if you want to leave your thoughts post-game, we'll mention some of those in this week's podcast. Hopefully Dan gets well soon and he can jump back into the booth with Tom. With Villa playing a little bit later because of the FA Cup weekend and the early week podcast, it feels like we've had a little bit of a break of our content over the last few days, but rest assured we'll be back with another podcast later this week. There'll also be a preview for the Burton game. Hopefully be some fan cams from that game as well. Thanks for sticking with us. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for watching. Up the Villa. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to do something. Jesus. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget... Oh my god. Oh, this is a joke. Shambles.
If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.